Hello, my name is Jacob Snyder, and for this presentation, I'm going to look into the effects of PrEP on the LGBTQ plus community. So, to start off, what is PrEP? PrEP is an HIV prevention method. It's a medication in which people take um, to prevent or greatly reduce the risk of getting HIV when they are exposed to the virus. Um, so PrEP is short for pre-exposure prophylaxis, and it's an HIV prevention method that people who don't already have HIV take, and it greatly reduces their risk of exposure through sexual contact or any type of other viral transmission, whether it be through blood or needles, syringes, this, that, and the other. So, when it comes to PrEP, PrEP isn't the medication. When it comes to the medication, there are only two available in the United States, and that would be Truvada and Descovy. So, Truvada was approved by the FDA in 2012, and it is suggested for any adult slash adolescent. And this is one that is a lot more well known and talked about and used within the community. Because on the other hand, we have Descovy, and Descovy was only approved in just 2 years ago, in October 2019. But this medication and this PrEP medication is actually only suggested for cis men or trans women. So there is a great population lacking when it comes to Descovy as to the amount of people that can take it. And the interesting thing about this, which I will touch upon further in this presentation, is that both of these medications are created and patented by the same company, Gilead Sciences. So, uh, who is PrEP for? PrEP is very well known in the LGBTQ plus community just because of how widespread HIV has been within this community. And it is specifically recommended, or especially recommended, for those at higher risk of contracting HIV. So those, yes, in the LGBTQ plus community, but also people of color and people of certain genders. So specifically people of color at a very higher risk of contracting HIV. We can see here that 50% of all new HIV cases occur among Black and Latino men. And that 75% of all women who contracted HIV are women of color. So we can also see an issue of race and ethnicity playing into this contraction of HIV and also the use of PrEP. So, furthermore, PrEP has been an amazing drug for the LGBTQ plus community and society as a whole. Studies have shown that when taking PrEP as recommended by a doctor, it reduces your risk of getting HIV through sex by about 99%. And that's literally so amazing. It is a godsend for society and for a community that struggled so long with the AIDS or HIV epidemic. So it can also benefit individuals who inject drugs or who have a drug history. It can also reduce exposure of HIV through drug and needle use as well. And most people on PrEP have little to no side effects at all, so it's a relatively safe drug. And it also has, keyword here, potential to be used and help reduce HIV rates in high-risk underprivileged communities and countries. I'm going to touch on this later on in this presentation, in actually just a few moments here, because with PrEP being so beneficial, there are also a lot of drawbacks and controversies when it comes to it. And that's going to lead me into the cons of PrEP, which I thought I wanted to focus more this presentation on. Not to say it's bad in nature, but also to expose some of the controversies and a negative side effects or drawbacks from this drug. So when we have negative health effects, although PrEP is a relatively safe drug, this medication has shown to cause damage and sometimes permanent if not fatal damage to the kidneys and bones in individuals who take it. And actually, Gilead Science has a lawsuit, or had one or two lawsuits, or a couple of them, against them for not producing a safer drug sooner. And that safer drug being Descovy, because Descovy is it has the same chemicals as PrEP, except one which has shown in testing to reduce the negative side effects or negative health effects from PrEP. Um, Now, PrEP also becomes a lot less effective if not taken daily. It needs to be taken daily for it to be very effective, and this is where a lot of people who are on it can reduce their effectiveness um, of taking this drug, because it needs to be taken daily for it to be 99% effective, like we've seen. And there's also short-term side effects such as headache, nausea, and stomach issues that also may occur when first starting on PrEP. So this is where the controversy starts coming into play when it comes to the availability and cost of PrEP. Without insurance, Truvada for PrEP can cost $2,000 for a month's supply. Fortunately, there are a lot of programs out there that help this cost for individuals who can't afford it, and also a lot of major insurances also do cover a large portion of this bill. But besides all of that, that price tag is completely ridiculous for a drug that is so life-saving as PrEP. And PrEP is also not reaching the Americans and the people that can benefit from it the most. People from underprivileged communities, people who can't afford it, people who don't even know about this due to the lack of sex education. It's very unfortunate that a lot of people who could really benefit and see a benefit in using this are not getting exposed to it and getting the information to this life-saving drug. And when it comes to Gilead Sciences, like mentioned before, they control or they own both Descovy and Truvada for PrEP. They have a complete monopoly in the U.S. PrEP market because there is no other generic brand of PrEP available due to patents. In Europe, on the other hand, they do have generic versions that are substantially cheaper and a lot more easily accessible for those who cannot afford the high price tag of Truvada or Descovy. Now, we also have changes in LGBTQ plus sex culture, and this is something that I've been personally aware of and also have heard of through friends and just through social media and that. And then when looking into it further, I found there was a lot of research on this topic as well. So it shows that studies have shown a decline in condom usage in those communities where PrEP is present. So those who are on PrEP, and this is creating an issue. Those who are on PrEP feel like it is a cure-all almost. It creates feelings of invincibility when it comes to sex and sexually transmitted diseases. And condom usage. Condom usage was greatly on the rise within the LGBTQ plus community because of the HIV and AIDS epidemic. It really incentivized people to practice safe sex, and safe sex shouldn't still be persuaded based on HIV and exposure to that, but also just as a common practice. So we can see here that PrEP does not protect users from STIs or STDs at all. It only solely protects individuals who are on it against HIV and that transmission of HIV. So in this study with Kojima, Davy, and Klausner, this was a study out of Sydney, Australia. And it found that those on PrEP had an increased frequency in actually contracting STIs. So we saw in this study that those that were on PrEP had a 25.3 times higher chance of contracting gonorrhea, an 11.2 times higher chance in contracting chlamydia, and a 44.6 times greater chance in developing syphilis and contracting syphilis. So we can see here that although STIs and STDs are a lot more treatable and curable than HIV, there are still a lot of negative health consequences that come from these. I mean, as we've seen, there are now strains of gonorrhea and chlamydia that aren't being treated by regular antibiotics. So this raises a very high concern for health, and also the issue of the frequency of STIs and STDs within these vulnerable communities. So, furthermore, there are a lot of course connections to PrEP. We have AIDS activism and awareness, and as we know, AIDS and HIV activism has been a huge motivator for just getting the country and the world and the minds that all reside in them to think about AIDS and HIV differently, and to create awareness about it, and to create drastic change when it comes to medical intervention, including PrEP. PrEP, without the awareness and activism from the LGBTQ plus community, would probably be nowhere near as developed and also implemented into society as it is. And furthermore, in our chapter 8 text in chapter 8 of our textbook, we cover the concept of intersectionality, and we can see here that intersectionality plays a huge part in PrEP, because we've seen that those people of color and people of certain genders and socioeconomic classes are more or at a higher chance of being exposed to HIV, and are those individuals who need to be exposed to PrEP and hopefully start taking it as a form of intervention, um, because these individuals are in a lot higher risk groups and communities. And we can see that intersectionality between race, gender, sex, sexuality, and class all come into play when it comes to the use of PrEP and the transmission of HIV. And furthermore, PrEP is just an LGBTQ plus issue. It is very widespread within this community. It's talked about, it's implemented, people are a lot more aware about it, and it is something that has greatly helped our community practice safer sex, and hopefully can continue to do this. So, in conclusion, when it comes to PrEP, there needs to be more research done on its side effects and its negative health side effects specifically. Um, Not saying this drug does more harm than good, because I think quite the contrary, but there still needs to be more research about this drug, and there also needs to be a substantial reduce in cost for this drug, because the $2,000 a month price tag is just something that is very not feasible for a lot of people, especially those who really should be honest. Um, and now we need proper usage. I mean, with people taking it, they have to take it every day. And when they're not taking it every day, it does not become as effective. So we really need to advocate proper usage of this drug to make it most effective within society. And furthermore, we need to increase accessibility. We need to get this drug to communities and countries that really need it, especially countries like those countries in Africa that have substantially suffered from HIV and AIDS contraction, and did not have the resources and still don't have the resources to combat this. And we also see communities within our own country that still don't have the accessibility to this drug, and that greatly need it. And additionally, safe sex education overall can just be so much more beneficial for the LGBTQ plus community, especially when it comes to PrEP, what PrEP does, how it works, what it and how it's effective. And also still emphasize the use of safe sex practices like condoms, getting tested for STIs, STDs regularly, monthly, and also just having a more open and accepting conversation when it comes to safe sex practices and education. So I appreciate you for listening to this presentation so much. This was actually really informational for me personally. I've always wanted to know more about PrEP. I don't go to the doctor or anything, so this is like a really good way to for me to look into it myself, and also to gain knowledge upon this to share to my friends or family. And the others. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed this presentation and this project, and I hope you did too. Thank you for an awesome semester as well. Bye bye.